issues, perspective, and you. Washington's most sought-after newsmakers take your calls live. Late Edition with Frank Sesno premieres Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern on CNN.
With more news.
Care reform package. In a letter to the president, the lawmakers stressed that, quote, comprehensive reproductive health services are critical components of a woman's total health. To treat them differently than other health services would be to treat women as less than full citizens. The group also asked for more comprehensive coverage for mammograms, pap smears, and pelvic exams. Others on Capitol Hill and around the country still have questions about how much the president's new health care proposal will actually cost, as senior Washington correspondent plan will more than pay for itself.
Can the U.S. afford President Clinton's health benefits package? Hillary Rodham Clinton says yes.
We have a total agreement among all of the actuaries inside the government who have pounded out these figures.
But the president's numbers and assumptions may take the pounding. Healthcare has a costly track record.
They said by 1990 we would be spending $9 billion a year on Part A Medicare. The actual expenditure in 1990 was $67 billion, 7.5 times the estimate.
The idea of global budgets and premium caps, it seems to me, may well cause our providers not to compete to keep their costs down, but to maybe game the system to get to the cap.
The president plans to finance his $700 billion health reform with a lot of savings. $124 billion from Medicare, $114 billion from Medicaid, and a little bit of tax, $105 billion in sin taxes on tobacco over the next 7 years. But economists are wary that real cuts in Medicare can be achieved.
It's a fantasy that one can cut the fees to doctors and to hospitals for Medicare and Medicaid indefinitely without cutting the benefits of the services.
Some say mandatory universal insurance amounts to a huge, barely hidden tax.
The payroll premium is a new tax. There's no question about it. It is a mandatory payment. In that sense, it's a tax. And it's also a tax that goes up the more you earn.
Are the Clintons realistic when they claim they can hold growth to 1% over inflation? Mrs. Clinton describes the plan as closest to Germany's mix of government payments and individual contributions.
German health expenditures actually grew by 2.87% above the inflation rate. The Canadian single-payer system grew at 4.8% above the inflation rate annually. And the British nationalized system grew at 4.07% above inflation.
The plan also predicts $91 billion in deficit reduction. Maybe.
Can you join me today in promising the American people that no new benefits will be adopted and implemented until after real and sufficient banked savings have been achieved?
Well, we think, Mr. Thomas, the savings go hand in hand with the benefits.
Mrs. Clinton is a lawyer, not an economist. So far, the more persuasive argument is that this country needs health care reform. The unsettled matter is how much it can afford. Charles Beerbass.
Oh, shut up.
Health care cost under your current plan will triple. Mr. President, small business cannot afford this plan.
Continuing our expanded coverage on health care reform and its impact on small business. Joining us, two small business owners, Victor Siegel here in Washington, Marilu Meyer in Chicago, and Glenn Hutchins. He's an entrepreneur and also a Clinton health care advisor. To Marilu Myers and Victor Siegel now, I would like to put the following question, if I may. And that is on a philosophical, moral level, if you will. Do you believe that employers should be the ones to bear the primary burden of providing health insurance for their employees? Marilu Meyer, you go first, if you would.
Yes, I think employers should provide health care coverage for their employees.
So on a moral level, you feel that this is appropriate to be asked to bear this responsibility, however difficult it may be?
I think it's appropriate to be requested to do it. I think to have it mandated is a problem.
To have it mandated is a problem. Victor Siegel?
I think it's appropriate for the employer to pay some of the health care insurance, but to put 80% of the burden upon some of these small businesses that are marginal anyway, might even put them out of business.
Where would you draw the line?
I don't know, maybe from their profit and loss statement. If they make enough profit to afford it, let them pay it. If they're not making the profit and this thing can put them out of business, it shouldn't happen.
Glenn Hutchins, how do you respond to that?
I would repeat that there are significant discounts in this plan for the low-wage businesses. That this plan does a lot for these small businesses, so that the costs of the health insurance today, as you see them.
But there are discounts, but should that business have some recourse to say, look, if I pay even this discounted amount, I won't be able to make it? There's nothing built into the plan in that regard, is there?
Well, I think if you look, it's my view that if you look at the discount structure, it's designed to assist the very kinds of businesses that you're talking about. So I think that the plan gets at that problem.
Go ahead,
please,
sorry.
No, please go ahead, Frank.
Well, I was going to cite some of your numbers. You say that an employer will pay 80% of the employee premiums, and your estimated numbers for 1994 would be a total of about $4,200 in premiums for a family. So if a business is paying 80% of that, it will be paying, if my math is correct and pretty good, a little over $3,200. Is that going to be onerous?
Well, Frank, that number is not quite accurate, because the average employer, on average in our country, there are about 1.5 workers per family. So that $3,200 is spread over, which is the family premium. Incidentally, a single premium and a couple's premium is lower than that. And these numbers are, of course, just estimates. But that's spread over 1.5 workers. So if that number, to make the math easier, was $3,600, then you'd be talking about a $2,400 employer contribution, not something in the 3,000s.
Marilu Meyer, does this whole scenario sound simple to you?
Oh, no, of course, nothing government does is simple. I guess I have a problem in that I still don't know if workman's compensation and union health benefits are going to be wrapped into this plan. It makes a big difference for those of us that have union workers on our payroll.
Explain that a little bit.
Well, presently for a carpenter that is earning a gross salary of $22.60 an hour, $4.08 the employer pays to the union for health and welfare. That's, you know, about 25%, a little over 25%. In addition to that, we're paying workman's compensation for that same employee. So we're paying like a double taxation to keep this man healthy, or woman healthy and well. And the workman's compensation rates in the state of Illinois range anywhere from 22% of an hourly wage up to 100% if you're a structural iron worker. So that's an add-on.
Mr. Hutchins will give you about 30 seconds here to reply.
The workers' compensation is, together with health care, in my experience, the two largest growing costs that businesses are experiencing, and they're essentially out of the control of the small business person. Right. This plan provides for the health care portion of workers' comp to be provided through the health care system that's being set up here, as a result of which health care costs for workers' comp, we believe, will go down significantly because they will share in the efficiencies that the rest of the system will enjoy. Okay. Since workers' comp is priced on experience, I anticipate that the workers' comp costs will come down very significantly.
Glenn Hutchins, we thank you very much. Also, Marilu Meyer in Chicago and Victor Siegel here in Washington. Thanks for your time and your input.
Thank you.
Deborah?
Thank you.
And still ahead, a federal judge's ruling threatens the Pentagon's new policy on gays.
It's the crime of the 90s.
You can't tell the original from the copy with the naked eye.
Plus, what may be the biggest bank theft in history.
It looked like a grade B gangster movie.
Crime Stories on the next CNN Presents, Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern on CNN.
The Pentagon's new Don't Ask, Don't Tell compromise policy on gays in the military was to take effect today, but it's been put on hold for a few weeks until field commanders learn how to enforce the new rules. In the meantime, the Pentagon and Justice Department are scrambling to appeal a federal judge's ruling which could undermine the new policy. We have more from CNN military affairs correspondent Jamie McIntyre at the Pentagon.
The ruling in the case of Navy Petty Officer Keith Meinhold has the potential to scuttle the Pentagon's ban on gays. The federal judge in the case ruled that discharging homosexuals just for saying they're gay is an unconstitutional ban on free speech. The big question, will higher courts agree?
The courts might have difficulty with that. They might want some concrete reason to believe that a person would engage in homosexual acts. It is clear that the courts would allow the outlawing of homosexual acts themselves.
And the Pentagon, seeing that is likely, is going ahead with new rules designed to make it easier for homosexuals to serve secretly in the service. CNN has learned that, as expected, the guidelines prohibit questions about sexual orientation, but inform new recruits of what conduct could result in separation. In spelling out when a declaration of homosexuality could lead to discharge, the emphasis is put on a propensity, not desire, to engage in homosexual conduct, and allows celibate gays to serve if they can rebut the presumption they will act on their desires. But the biggest change bars investigations solely to limit sexual orientation, limits power to initiate investigations to commanders unless a crime is committed, and then criminal investigators can investigate only to establish the crime. Some say that could put an end to witch hunts.
You can't go out and stake out gay bars. You can't ask individuals to turn in other individuals. So it will curb some of the very, very onerous witch hunts that occurred in the last decade.
Within the next few weeks, the courts will have spoken and Congress will have made the new gay policy law. And while neither may have uttered the last word, Pentagon officials profess confidence that enough will have been said to make don't ask, don't tell, don't pursue the official policy of the U.S. military. Jamie McIntyre, CNN, The Pentagon.
Some surprises in the first comprehensive government survey of workplace fatalities. Women account for only 7% of deaths on the job, yet 40% of women who die at work are murdered. The Labor Department study says 15% of workplace deaths among men are murders. Officials say the difference may be due to the large number of women exposed to crime by working late at night.
The price of a pack of cigarettes will soon go up by 2 cents in California. CNN's Greg Lamont tells how the state plans to use the tax increase.
If you live in California, smoke them while you got them. Starting January 1, every pack of cigarettes will cost an additional 2 cents. Governor Pete Wilson, surrounded by survivors of breast cancer, signed legislation increasing the state tax on cigarettes to 37 cents. The money will be used to fund breast cancer research and prevention.
In 1960, 1 in 20 women could expect to get breast cancer in their lifetime. Today, 1 in 8 women can expect to get breast cancer, and the California legislature has never appropriated 1 penny for breast cancer research to respond to this crisis.
Governor Wilson didn't adhere to his own principles. Taxing cigarette smokers to pay for research that everybody, man and woman, wants to see is very unfair.
Even though it's just 2 pennies a pack, not everyone is thrilled with the idea.
We're already being punished because we can't smoke anywhere, and now we have to pay for everybody else's health care. I don't see why I have to pay for it. And as far as breast cancer goes, that's hereditary. So why should I have to pay for somebody else's hereditary problems, too?
For others, it's no big deal.
We smoke because it's a habit, so we have to support our habit no matter how much it costs.
They taxed us before. It's no big deal. I mean, I'll just keep smoking no matter what.
Cigarettes have become an easy target for generating money to help fund government programs. In fact, cigarette taxes have been raised this year in 14 states, generating an additional $623 million. Smoking is certainly bad for your health, but almost a must for state coffers.
If there was a law mandated right now in the United States that says no more smoking, my God, what would our governments, local, state, and federal do? Because it is a tremendous amount of money that the smokers are pouring into government to fund government programs.
Just what President Clinton has in mind to help fund health care reform. 2 pennies may be an aggravation, but a proposed 75 cents a pack could make smoking a habit many smokers would opt to kick. Greg Lamont, CNN, Los Angeles.
And we'll be back in just a moment with a look at the top stories. Updating our top stories, the death toll has now climbed over 20,000 from Thursday's earthquake in southwest India. In most villages, the search for survivors is over. Recovering bodies and cremating them is now the main task. The U.S. government has just announced it's rushing $3 million in aid to India and may send even more.
Mediators from the Russian Orthodox Church plan to continue talks tomorrow with the two sides in Russia's 11-day-old political standoff. Today, Boris Yeltsin went on national TV telling the lawmakers holed up inside the parliament that they should put down their guns if they want concessions. They refused.
And millions of Americans today are spending more at the gasoline pumps. The 4.3 cent a gallon gasoline tax increase included in President Clinton's deficit reduction plan took effect today. Fill her up.
And that's our look at the world today. I'm Deborah Potter.
And I'm Frank Sesno. Thanks for joining us. And a quick programming note. This Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Late Edition will debut. Our guests today will be, or on Sunday rather, will be Senator George Mitchell and Senator Bob Dole, and we will invite you to join us with your questions and your phone calls. Hope to see you then. Lou Dobbs joins us now with a preview of what's coming up on CNN. Lou.
Thank you. Now that's 5 o'clock Sunday, right? We'll join you.